What's up, guys?
Great, lovely here in Stockholm. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing very good. Good to see you, Sujay and Sid. We actually just recently caught up in London, of all places.
We
But
did.
I guess we're no longer there anymore. But good to see you guys. And I think we wanted to talk about this book that you
Yes.
guys wrote. But before we get into that, do you both want to give a quick intro, maybe starting with Sujay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, lovely meeting you in London. Big day to
Yeah, for
London.
sure.
What a crowd, right? So
Crowd.
yes, I am based in Stockholm, living here for 15 years, but I'm more like a globetrotter. I used to live in US in Dallas before that, and then in India. What I do as a day job, I've been working with execs in terms of helping them deliver value through data. So presently I'm working at Databricks, but before that I was working at Informatica and many other technology companies. But to clarify, this book and this discussion is we are not representing our employers here. This is our present personal thoughts and ideas. So yeah, my focus is all what Joe. I have formulated a simplified framework called ABCD, just to focus how I think convergence or value creation is happening. Wherein A stands for AI, B is not to forget the business outcomes, C is not to forget the people and the culture, and D is not to forget the data. So that's where the ABCD frameworks comes in. But
Awesome.
happy to discuss further.
Yeah, we'll
Over
do
to you.
that. Yeah, Sid.
Sure. Yeah, I'm also based in Europe, but I'm based in the Netherlands. Maybe coincidental, Sujay, I didn't realize that till we spoke now. Also 15 years in the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, but originally from India. I'm not that much of a globetrotter. I'm India and the Netherlands in my life. So kind of 15, kind of. I don't want to give my age away, but let's say another 15 plus. But yeah, I'm part of professionally, as Sujay said, we are on a not a professional level, but professionally, my career is really started from the weeds. I actually started off in university coding, like most Indian engineers do at the time. Found myself loving computer science, AI, but also data warehouses. I was lucky to be part of that earlier stage, also with the Kimball's book, and got into a lot around dimensional modeling, etc. Started off at Accenture, was a real pure database, administrator, developer, building data warehouses, building operational systems. Did that for like almost a decade at Accenture and Cognizant. Then found myself chasing principles beyond building stuff. So naturally kind of went into the architecture space, found myself trying to piece the puzzle together quite a lot. So did that again for a good 10 years at Cognizant, and then at Informatica now for about 7 years, where I'm part of a CTO organization. It's kind of the same thing, but at a broader scale, right? So it was more like I started off doing it at a particular customer or enterprise, found myself wanting to learn more, so kind of broadened out to architecture, where I'm part of multiple customers, and now I'm the CTO level, part of several large customers across Europe, Middle East, Latin America. We are kind of a global team. You met my CTO boss Nick a few weeks ago at our Informatica podcast. So yeah, I'm part of
That's
this.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
So
guy.
I think that's where Sujay and me complement each other as well. So I think I come much more from a bottom up perspective. Sujay comes more from a business perspective. So yeah, that's us.
Yeah, that's super cool. Had you guys written a book before this one?
I can't speak for Sujay, but at least I haven't. I used to write a bit on LinkedIn, so I found myself, let's call it, doing the 5K run before try to do the marathon. So, but no, I haven't written a book. I don't know for Sujay.
No, no, same for me. Never a book, but yes, articles and stuff. But Joe, incidentally, during COVID times, I started my own podcast as well. So it's called the Business Developer Podcast. So after
Nice.
been there, done that, and then said, okay, what's next? And that's where this idea came up. And then I reached out to Sid and say, hey, Sid, let's write this book. And I think he and I aligned on the topic very much, though from different angles and perspective. We'll talk further on that.
That's super cool. It's a business development podcast. Is it still active?
Yeah, it's still active. You can find it on Spotify or Apple or anything. The Business Developer Podcast.
Business developer podcast.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. Look at me.
For sure, Sujay didn't see me as a business person because he never invited me to his own podcast.
No shit.
Oh man. Well, there's always hope he might do that. Yeah, it's interesting. I think before I wrote my book, I had obviously written a lot of articles and blogs over the decades, really, and but a book is a different matter. I think you described it as 5Ks to marathon. I think depending on the book, it could be a marathon, it could be an ultra marathon, it could be an Ironman, it could be a bunch of really messed up things you do to yourself. Why did you guys decide to write a book?
Well, yeah, I think this is one of my maybe a life goal as well. And there's multiple dimensions to it. And people ask me this question. One is also to get into more content creation than consumption. And at home, I want to motivate my kids as well, who are just sunk on their iPads and devices. And I keep telling them,
Yeah.
okay, create content and be on the creator side, not just so. My way to actually show them doing that. Plus, with all the topics and ideas, I believe, the discussions that we are having with customers, I feel that the book helps elevate that seriousness of the matter that we are trying to bring up.
Mm.
And then it helps us. Now, the book we see is a tool to the message that we are trying to champion. At least I see it that way. And it's obviously curiosity, building up our brand as well, and how when we approach customers, at least I come from a technology companies trying to tell them, okay, technology is just one of the components. How do you achieve your business value and benefit? So I would say multidimensional in that way, Joe. But over to you, Sid.
Pretty similar. The other part was the book we really wanted. We've seen some great books on data in the past, and I'm an avid reader as well. So I've read your book, I've read a bunch of other books, but we wanted to really target the C-suite. And we thought, what is
Mhm.
the best way to target the C-suite? Probably writing a book, because, or would have a podcast to go with it or something of that shape, right? But we wanted the book to be like the handbook for C-suite, including chief data officers, of course. So we felt book is better because Sujay and me discussed, should we do it as a podcast, should we do a Udemy course, should we do something else. But we thought, if we really wanted to distill our thoughts, writing it in a book, with some base behind that. In a podcast you can go to a certain level, but we felt we couldn't go to that level of depth we wanted to put in the book. So that was the kind
Yeah.
of reasons.
Now, your book does go deep too. I was pleasantly surprised. I get a number of books, geared towards CDOs. People send me things all the time, and I feel like those types of books I think are very hit and miss, because I think it's easy to go probably too high level and stay too obvious. But I think you guys did a really good job at actually going in. Well, you did a really good job at talking about technical matters, but in a way that wasn't, I think, scary to somebody who's possibly non-technical. Again, when you say C-suite, that could mean anybody
Yeah.
Yeah.
with a C in front of their name, but chief data officers, even today, I still see chief data officers, some of whom are technical and more practitioners, some who I don't even know if they could turn on their phone in the morning, to be frank. It's just it's a very big spectrum of people, but I think you did a good balance of communicating that. And that's actually, I think, speaks highly to your skills of thinking through the matter, because I think if you can explain things in a simple way, that means you've thought through it. Or you just have a knack for explaining things simply, but that's insanely difficult to do,
Appreciate
actually.
that. I
Yeah.
think that is
Yeah.
where, at least for me, Joe, having a co-author was really useful, because I know for a fact with stuff I write, if I don't have a person to talk it through with, I could become a bit all around the place with the way it comes out. But having Sujay to talk through with it, and we didn't really do a data analysis, Sujay, but I would assume we spent the same, if not more time talking about stuff between each other, but also between a bunch of our soundboarding set of people, both from the data and outside data setup. I think that helped a lot to when we were actually writing, to put things down on thought through, than just trying to piece things together at the end, rather than finding a link at the start itself.
And to add to that, Joe, another dimension is that we have been doing this virtually. So Sid and I are living in different cities. It's good that we have worked together in the past, so we kind of understand each other's wavelength. But the entire book writing process actually happened virtually. So we getting on evening calls, weekend calls, morning calls, and many of the ideas and frameworks actually got thrashed out in our virtual discussions. And then I used to draw something on paper and send it out to Sid. Hey, look at it. What do you feel? Then we thrash it out the next day. So that was quite interesting and intriguing. Not trying to make it out the realities of life that we can't be at the same place at the same time.
Yeah. Well, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And co-authoring is you guys, congrats on doing it. I know it's hard sometimes and fun. Let's dive into it though. What's a big idea? What if I'm a C-level reading this book? Like, what am I getting out of this?
Yeah, if you take the big idea, Joe, we lean onto the AI as a leading theme of today because that has the C-level attention. So if you are a C-level executives and you are wondering about how you make business value through AI, right? We want to help you to realize that in addition to your people, your processes that are needed and the tech that is needed, which is all the AI models, the key differentiation and value will be delivered through a fourth component called data. And in most companies, data remains an underutilized asset. There are multiple percentage of how much data is being used. Some say 5, 10, 20%. But and in the AI age as well, we found another report from IBM which talks about only 1% of data fed into LLM models. So we wanted to help bring that realization to the CXOs that hey, AI is critical in any and beyond AI, your all other strategic initiatives in today's age, it is not only on the classic people, process, and technology. You need to elevate this fourth dimension to that level as equal to people, process, and technology. And simply put, what you are doing for people, process, and tech, do it for data as well. Because at the end of the day, as in the AI first stage and AI agents, you will have lesser people, maybe very specific, specialized peoples, and people can be trained and hired. Your processes you will build up, which are very much focused on you, but with technology like SAPs or ERP, you're standardizing your processes. Tech is anyway standardized. So, what is the actual differentiation in your company? That comes through, in addition to people, I would say, through data, right? That is bringing you that differentiation not only today, but more so for in that AI first stage. So that's the realization wanted to bring in because when we talk to many consultants and who are doing such AI workshops, we see data is being missed out in the agenda and data is then big. Oh, data, go and talk to my IT team or technical team, they know more about data. So we want to bring that realization. That is the core message and focus of the book. And then the book not only covering the why, we go into the what and the how to bring about the strategic structural change.
Yeah, and to build on Sujay's point, Joe, I mean, we found very soon, or maybe it was back of our mind, but we kind of put it in the book in a more prominent way that the people process technology part has both roles to play with data, right? In one hand, people process and technology is required for data because a lot of data programs fail because the right attention of people is not there or the right processes are not there from a data perspective. How do you manage your data landscape, for instance, measurable, scalable way, or you don't have the right technology in place. Like a lot of execs say, "Oh, technology is an afterthought," but in today's day and age, technology should also be a forefront in how you build your data, capabilities. But data can also give back to these three other pillars, right? So data, if done well, can give information back to people, can help your existing process and help technology. So that's how we kind of found the synergy, which is why we felt it fits very well in the operating model. Yet many enterprises consider data as a byproduct of one of.
And in addition to that, Joe, most see one of the key job of the CEO is to make the capital allocation decisions, right? And we have worked with many of the customers and the data teams. They say, and the feedback we receive, that they get seen as a cost center. They have to justify the budget every time, right? So that again does not align with AI first stage and the criticality of data. So we want CEOs to see that data is a underutilized asset, and by realigning their capital allocation, how they could change that, how they can make it from underutilized to rightly utilized asset, similar to their people, processes, or technology.
Why do you think this is that? I mean, I get the sense that we're all kind of old timers in the data industry in some way, shape, or form. And data has always suffered from this. I don't know if it's a stigma per se, but definitely an underinvestment. And I think an
Yeah.
underappreciation. Like, why do you think this is? And even in today's world of AI, where I think C levels have been told data, you have to make your data AI ready, yada yada yada. Why are we still missing this key point?
My hypothesis or feeling is the ubiquity of data. Joe, if I and Sid and I discussed, if you look back an evolution of an enterprise, human beings got together and started, okay, let's form a company. But data was still in their minds, right? And then when the company grew bigger, they said, okay, we need to build processes. Otherwise, it is becoming too complex to manage. And when processes came in and companies started to grow, then you said, okay, we have to bring technology to automate that process. But while through this evolution, the data already exists. I feel it's like the air that you breathe, and then you don't feel the value of the air unless you hit to a place where there's a lot of air pollution. Then you feel, oh, I need to get fresh air. I need to do a lot of air therapy and stuff like that. So I feel that ubiquity of data as a air kind of sometimes makes exit. Oh, I don't see it. I think that's where again air you can't see it. But now as things elevate to the next level, right? If I can say, oh, I am getting sick, my family is getting sick, the air is so polluted, we have to do something about it. So I feel that is my thought. Maybe let Sid share his perspective too.
No, that's true. It also depends on what kind of enterprise you are. So I wouldn't kind of put this out as a blanket statement. We do see some enterprises, especially let's call it the newer ones on the block, identify
Yeah.
this at the outset. But the ones, to Sujay's point, which have been enterprise for a few decades, they've probably not yet been able to change fast enough. Some of them are realizing it. We do see some customers, for example, I work with a few automotive customers who see the speed of innovation happening with the Teslas and the Chinas of the world, and realize that it's no longer I can sell a car, for instance. I need to really sell a service around it. And as soon as that realization happens, then they do look at data as a value driver as well. But sometimes it requires that change. That's what our thought is, for the CXOs to realize that you need to make first that business change to realize how you need to pivot, and then attach data as a right value towards that. So that's my thought on this.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Oh, sorry, Sujay, what you saying?
No, I think another story you thought came to mind because when we were looking at sounding boards and people for interview while writing the book, and we approached a small, medium-sized company in the Middle East, and we said, "Okay, we're writing the book as a data as the fourth pillar." He came back and said, "Hey, I think data is the first pillar for me." Because you know why? I am providing a very commoditized payment service providing, and which the margins are so thin, 2 or 3%. If I go and try to differentiate and compete on that, I will just cut down my operating margins and profitability. So what I do, I go to the merchants and say, not only you get a payment service, that's just the basic foundation. I will give you analysis and insights based on the customers who are transacting through the point of sale, and I will give you brand advertising, brand awareness, which brands are selling, when customers are coming. So they are saying I'm basically more of a marketing or brand insights company rather than just a payment. So for me, then data is the first pillar. However, so this might not be the norm. It might be 1, 2%, 10%, who knows? So there are few companies who are thinking in that way, and our goal is to have more companies think that way. That maybe if you think closely, for many companies, they are a data company, right?
Yeah, they definitely have, or they've been collecting a lot of data, and they should figure out a way to put it to use. It's one of these decades. Walk me through your framework, right? So it's the fourth pillar. We've established data is, it's in the same plane as people process technology than data. But if let's take the majority case here, enterprises, mature enterprises. I think because this is commonly where CDOs or chief data officers are they're hired in to provide some sort of transformation. Sometimes against all odds. But how do you recommend that? Say I'm a CDO. I get hired at, I don't know, Dunder Mifflin, paper company. We want to revolutionize paper.
I wonder why I have that
Finally.
company.
What's that?
Yeah.
I wonder why I've heard that company.
I don't know, it's pretty clever. But yeah, so I am the new chief data officer at Dunder Mifflin. We're still pretty much stuck in our processes back when The Office was filmed in 2005. So it's 20 years. We want to make a change. We want to become AI ready. How do I do this?
Yeah, I think one of the key guidance that we are bringing for chief data officers is to first understand the demand side of equation, because data, like an economic activity, will only be successful if you look at both demand and supply holistically. And most chief data officers get sucked into the supply side in terms of either technology modernization and stuff like that. So we want to say, okay, first 90 days, I would say a chief data officer should focus on, okay, what does the demand for data look like? So if you are coming, Joe, as a new chief data officer, I would say go and talk to the business functions, different business functions, understand what they are doing and how is data presently used and how data could be differently used to bring in a delta change in your business outcomes. So we heavily then focus on, say, okay, get the demand right, and then we have developed a framework. We have actually coined a term called data intensity.
I
Try
saw
to say,
that.
okay, yeah, if you're, it's like the intensity of a fire or something, you feel the heat. So what is the or if you're having a chili, for example, how intense is the chili, the spiciness of the chili, right? So going to a use case, say, for example, with the paper, you have to roll out, suppose, a new manufacturing plant, for example, right? Maybe last year you set up a plant, it the budget overrun or time overrun. How do you do better next time? Go to that business function, the project team, and say, okay, how can we make the next plant go live at the same, maybe under budget or a faster time, and how data could play a role there. So that's how I'm just giving you an impact definition. So Sid and I, we have coined different KPIs. We call it TAV, EAV, and RV. TAV is the total addressable value, and then the expected value, and RV is the realized value. So I would say a CDO to go ahead, talk to the business, understand the data intensity, and formulate the TAV for the organization. What is the total addressable? It's like a TAM for a product company launching a product, right? So I would say that's the initial thing to go ahead with. And our data intensity, how do you then understand that? We have created a framework called QCS framework, because most executives or people, okay, I need good data. What does good data mean? And so what we have said, it's actually not just one dimensional on quality of data, but it's actually three dimensional now, more so with AI and compliance, that Q is quality, C is compliance, both external and internal, and then S is speed. Because now with AI and AI agents, you just cannot wait for a data to come 1 day old or 1 hour old. You need it real time. So to give one framework example, I don't know, Sid, you'll like to add something to that?
Yeah, I think you've covered most of the things in a very quick time. But to
Yeah.
to the original question, Joe, I guess the point is demand, right? So how do I get this demand? We see that CDOs struggle initially to also get the right programs in place, right? So to get those right programs in place, they need the right backing of the CEO and the board, but also the right backing of the business folks. And often we've seen, I'm sure, as you said, we are all decades long data folks. We've seen the struggle of chief data officers saying, yeah, I want to do this great program that I have thought in my mind, but I don't have the budget, or I'm getting a cut in number of people. How do I do it in a fast, cheap way? That, and then, that's the project gets stalled somewhere. And the reason for that is also because the business feels, hey, that's the data team, they'll do their stuff, we'll get the
Right.
outcome at the end of it, rather than business being really engaged into this whole thing. In an ideal situation, I would say the data team should be embedded into the business functions and not kind of having a data office of their own and operating on their own and then figuring out how to get this demand, to Sujay's point. But the
Yeah.
reality is Dunder Mifflin company may not be that at that stage, right? So the first level is to really convince the board, CEO, and the business that data is the fourth pillar, as we've said. To do that, perhaps get the demand, show some initial successes, show that TAM opportunity. So at least, a CEO who understands the TAM for his company can also understand the TAM for data in that company, which we have coined as total addressable value.
Now, what are your thoughts on this? I think in the past, I would say before this current era of AI, the timeline to prove out value might take a long time for every reason in the world. But today we have AI coding assistants. We have systems that we can just do things a lot more quickly if we have the capability of doing so. Do you see that there's any advantages or new opportunities to leverage AI to get these quick, visible wins and show them to the business that we may not have had before?
Absolutely, yes. So, but that's one part of the equation here, Joe. So AI for sure, especially with self-service, maybe even having business build stuff themselves, data team being the enabler, could also allow them to fail faster, identify from this TAM what really works, what doesn't. But eventually, we still require the business to, and right from the CEO to believe in data. If
Yeah.
if it still becomes a cost center, as Sujay said, you might build this faster, you might have a cheaper, leaner team, but still you will not get the feedback from the people who really matter. The data team still becomes the human in the loop for that AI, right? Ideally, we don't want that. We want the business who's going to use this day in day out to be the human in the loop for that data program behind the scenes. So it's a combination, not just of AI will definitely help, but it requires the right people, the right processes in addition to AI to work.
And maybe another perspective, Joe, I think when AI starts working, I believe it's at a higher level of maturity that organization wherein they are able to use AI across different business processes. But then you need to think, how do those AI agents gain that level of maturity, right? And that's where data is going to help them. If you don't have the data foundation, if you have not done self-service that these AI agents could self data for themselves, and more so, another framework we have coined is the data operating model. Now, if we flip to the supply side of things, and within data operating model, even it has 4 layers, the key differentiating layer we calling the data intelligence layer, which captures the context for the organization, right? And these AI agents, to actually get to that level of maturity, they need to understand the context for the business. And context again is not just for AI agents. We human beings, when we take decisions our business, we have the context, sometimes in our heuristic, sometimes based on experience, right? And that's the context the AI agents needs to gather, the machines needs to gather. So, and that's where data again plays a key role to enable organizations to reach to that level of maturity, right? With the context. So I think we call context as the king, and then like this data intelligence layer can be the kingmaker. So that's one of the key differentiation we bring in our data operating model, the supply side of data.
Sure. And this brings up an interesting point too. So there's that infamous MIT study that came out about how 95% of generative AI projects fail. I think people didn't bother reading the study, but one key part of the study, in terms of at least the current models that we have today, and one of the failings that we were seeing, is the context part itself, where the models are great at superficial activities. They work on. That was well recognized in there, where they said actually most of the people they surveyed were bringing their own AIs to work if their employer was not providing them.
Exactly.
But the context and the memory of the models was the big kicker for doing anything more complicated than, I don't know, summarizing an email or something.
Yeah.
So like, how do you build that context aspect into the AI? Because I feel like this is like the big question right now, is people are talking about knowledge graphs, ontologies, and semantics, and blah 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 blah. But cool, how do I build that in my company? Like, what is?
Yeah, so I mean, a knowledge graph is a good start because at least it allows you to connect different elements in your enterprise together. So you might have, but it requires, again, to the previous answer, different parties to participate. You can't build a knowledge graph with just pumping in all your application metadata and say, hey, that's my catalog is my knowledge graph, right? That's only part of the puzzle, right? It's not the entire puzzle. You require your business definitions, you require your process people to come together. And to your point, Joe, AI could also be the solution. And I've been thinking about this a couple of weeks since the MIT study. I mean, sure, knowledge graphs and semantics is a problem or a feeder to AI, but also AI could feed back. If AI is really smart, it could even look at your context or your semantics of your enterprise and go ahead and initially at least suggest the humans, but later maybe itself extend the context, saying, hey, I see all these things, this is what is missing. Now, how we actually physically realize the semantic layer, I feel there will be more innovation in this space. You could use a vector database, you could use a knowledge graph. You might actually require physical data to go along with that context. So again, we should not forget things like master data, for instance, or reference data. So I think eventually you might have combination of all of these. Now, if AI itself becomes the producer and consumer of this, it might be in a format which maybe we don't even need to read. That's I think the jury is still open, or technology is still open in how we actually realize this. At least conceptually, we feel these elements need to come together. It can't just be technology metadata, for instance, in that context.
Yeah, it is one of those open-ended questions. I know that there was the recent open semantic data interchange or initiative or whatever. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
Snowflake released that, yeah.
So curious to see where it all goes. It'd be funny if then a competing standard comes out and there's two of them, and then it's like they need like the. Well, I always joke that you need a semantic layer on top of the other semantic layers. When I was at both Snowflake and Databricks summits this summer, it was every vendor's like, yeah, we have a semantic layer. I'm like, oh god, you too. This is going to be a mess. So it is, but as you say, it's still early days, and the jury's kind of out on this right now. And what I've been telling people is like that you can go. Don't wait. Like, get involved and be a part of the solution. This is the time when we figure things out and we build the future. And the cool thing is you have AI to help you build this future. It's not the old days, so it's super cool. But the flip side of this is when we were actually at Big Data London, in that there was kind of a, for the audience, there was I had to give two talks. One was on the big stage, the other was in like a 40-person kind of small room, and I decided not to give it the same talk because it didn't really fit that vibe, or the characters are all business leaders in that room. And so we more had a discussion about just what people are seeing with AI. And one person brought up a very interesting, but I think common observation in her company, which is people have a Microsoft Copilot, for example, in the enterprise. They're just going ahead, you mentioned self-serve, they're just going ahead and querying the data and saying, oh, I have an analysis, no idea if it's right or not, because none of the data is governed. And that was her concern was, this person's just going off and just basically making prompts and getting an answer, but Lord knows if it's right or not. But that's, but I guess to tie it back to the data as a pillar and the data teams we're talking about, that's also a reality that's happening in companies where you kind of have this shadow self-serve. I don't even know if it's shadow, it's just out in the open. The data team more feels like it's in the shadow, actually. Like, how do you address that dichotomy right now?
And the reason that is happening, and the co-pilots that you mentioned, Joe, is because there are siloed applications or data behind it. For example, if you are part of a business function which is only looking at marketing, probably you are using a marketing application. Or if you're part of a CRM, you're looking at a CRM like a Salesforce or Dynamics, etc. And often you're building agents and AI models on top of that alone. But from an enterprise context, this is again creating siloed AI co-pilots or whatever you are building on top of it, which is again creating the same problem we've had a couple of decades ago from the application space itself. That's why we came and built data warehouses. That's why we started building reports, self-service, etc. And now we are a couple of decades ahead. So I think that the first, like many technology, evolutions, we need to first look at the problem, how we solved that a couple of decades ago, and make sure we don't fall into the same trap again. Right? That's kind of what I'm feeling with the AI piece as well. That a lot of, and that's also happening because a lot of enterprise leaders are not seeing data as that fourth pillar, and they see, okay, AI will solve this. I've had AI leaders speak to me saying, oh, but I don't need really a data lake or a data warehouse anymore, because I think my agents will talk to each other and they'll figure out what to do. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure that's the way to go.
Exactly. And Joe, I get reminded, I think you raised, I was part in the second discussion, you raised this exact point. There's a lot of wastage there, the Great Pacific Waste, right? So there'll be a lot of such wastages that will happen in enterprises where people are forming their analysis quickly. And again, coming back to the QCS dimension, maybe the quality was not good, they were not compliant, right? Yeah, they might have got the speed as high, but they failed on two other dimensions. That would lead to a lot of junk and a lot of wastage in enterprises as well. Hence, I think it's very much important that these chief AI officers or the CEOs take that call of, okay, how much are we wasting as well, right? What's your thinking?
I mean, this is part of the jury is out and we're inventing things as we progress is, yeah, I mean, vibe coded apps, for example, right? You could use any of the number of tools, Replit, Lovable.
Yeah.
Lovable is pretty cool, actually. I've been liking that a lot. Replit's great. Claude Code is amazing, especially with the new Sonnet model. It's like
yes,
insane how good the stuff's getting. I vibe code all the time. But I've also written software before, and I know how to code. So I think it's like the big difference is you sort of know what you're looking for, kind of. It's hard for me to do it though. I don't know about you guys, but when something spits out like several thousand lines of code, you're like, I can't go and read all this, not in a reasonable time frame. So it is getting very interesting. But then what I'm seeing across the board is non-technical people building apps, building analysis, building whatever. And on one hand, that is a superpower. It is awesome. Like the amount of things people can get done and just the confidence level is great. On the other hand, as you talked about, I think I quipped it was the Great Pacific Garbage Patch of AI slopware, which is increasingly, I think, going to be the norm, whether any of us like it or not. That's just going to be how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Databricks bought Neon for a very good reason because there's going to be lots of apps written with Postgres databases.
Exactly.
You can see it in Lovable. I mean, they always try and get you to use Supabase in the back end. But that means more data, though, right? The biggest problem that I have is, cool, you have all these apps, and it's like the Excel problem. Excel is one of those things that sort of work. It comes up as a workflow because there's not a ready solution for it, and people don't have time. This is going to be that on all the steroids in the world and then some. So it's going to be interesting.
Exactly. So I think the data problem earlier, we have been classically thinking, okay, how much data the enterprise is creating or getting. But I feel with this AI thing and all the garbage, is a lot of such garbage data will also get created. And how do you actually clean it up? And that would be another challenge. And enterprises, I don't know how will handle it unless you really focus on. And again, it brings back to the maturity of thinking that data must be the fourth pillar for you to get a handle of it, right?
Which is why, again, the
Yeah.
people part is critical, because you will always have different context to the same things from different business functions, especially in a big enterprise. Because just as a simple example, most companies where I go and talk to the business teams or data leaders, I say, how many different versions of a customer do you have? And I always get at least a number more than five. If you're in that range, you're pretty good, I would say, as a company. But there's always different definitions, because if you ask the marketing team, they would say any lead and any prospect I get is a customer. If you go to a service team, there's a different definition, right? So the answer is not that we will come with one single view of a customer definition, because I don't think that will be ever existing. But the answer is at least understanding that these all different views map to that same common term called a customer. And that will not come by itself with AI, right? I mean, you require some amount of people coordination. Probably that's the thing people will need to work on when AI does all the actual coding and stuff, to get together to discuss these aspects. And that would be the differentiation in enterprises, and not necessarily the language model you use, whether you use Sonnet or OpenAI, etc. I feel over time that's going to become, or probably it's already commodity in a lot of ways. That's not a
It is.
differentiation, as no longer, unless you're completely blocking it, saying no AI in my company. Then probably you are in even deeper trouble if you do that.
I mean, I think you are right in the commodity thing. If you fire up Cursor or VS Code, I mean, you can just select whatever model you want. I do that all the time because I get
Yeah.
throttled on certain models. I need to say, well, okay, I'll just use that instead. My friend Will Gaviria Rojas, he described it. So he runs an AI company, very well versed in AI stuff. But at his company, they described the models as just wheels on a car.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
change them. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you don't build your business around the model, though. That'd be absolutely dumb.
Yes.
Because they change every week.
Yeah. I think car is a good analogy if you take the wheels as the models, and the human being who's driving the car, and more so it will be autonomous cars, but that every car needs an engine, right? And one may see that data is that engine that is making your car run, right? And if there is faults in the engine, your car will go and stop somewhere or you'll crash out. So I think that's very critical. Good analogy that you brought up.
Just not to
Yes.
forget, Joe, by the way, since
Yeah.
so much mention of one important aspect we've put in the book, also related to cars, is a case study. So we thought,
Oh yeah.
we are coming out with a lot of frameworks, but we didn't want to just put these frameworks in theory in a book and tell our readers to figure it out, right? So one early thing which we did, thanks to Sujay mainly, because he reached out. He's much more the cold caller, and I'm much more the person in the background, hiding, probably writing sometimes. But anyway, he reached out to Audi and their CDO, Rudiger Eck, and it was great that Audi and Rudiger could be part of the journey writing the case study for the book. What was also great for us is Audi started now using a lot of these frameworks in their enterprise. So that also gave us confidence that it's not just one way that we are learning from them and building the case study.
Yeah.
He's actually told us, and he's mentioned out in public as well, that they are using some of our frameworks in their data strategy. So that
That's super
gives us
cool.
confidence.
Yeah.
Audi, the automaker too, right?
Yes,
That's
the
the car
Audi
that
actually. Yeah.
reminded me from the car discussions.
No, no,
Indeed, indeed.
nice catch, Sid. Yeah, so
Yeah,
that
good one.
yeah, that's happening. And Joe, another thing we also brought up, we started with the CDO point, like you took up the
Yeah.
role of the CDO. So one thing that we are actually formulating with the data as the fourth pillar, the CDO must then report to the CEO, because that's another change enterprises must do. And to give that attention and getting the CDO in the same table when business conversations are happening, and not being one level below a chief information officer or a chief
Right.
technology officer. So that is a key message a CEO can give to the organization, that this chief data officer that I have hired reports into me because data is so critical for our success. So it's important to drive the change, because ultimately it's a significant change for an established company like Audi or the paper company that you said, because you have been traditionally operating as people, process, and technology. Who is this data? Yeah, it's part of technology. Go and sit there, right? So if you have to bring this
Right.
change, you need the sponsorship from the top, and that's where it comes in of how the CEO is represented. And actually, a curious thought comes in: if you get hired as the CEO or CDO, who wrote the job description for you?
Mm.
Who is your hiring manager? And most cases you will find today, it is most likely the chief information officer or the chief technology officer. And then once you come in, you are given a task. Okay, go fix this technology. I have a legacy data warehouse. Go and modernize it. I have this data quality issue. Go and fix it. So all cost saving related initiatives is that how you get sucked into. So you need to go and come and pivot the discussion and say, data with the fourth pillar, where is the demand? And demand gets you to talk to business, and you reporting to the CEO, it gives you that mandate to go and talk to the business on demand. So just coming back to the discussion where we started.
Oh, I love that though, right? It's I mean, it's the difference between playing defense and offense. And right
Exactly.
now, offense wins in today's world with AI. I can see no scenario where you play defense and win with AI right
No,
now. It doesn't
no.
work. But that is often the perception, right? Especially in CIO land. It's very much we're a cost center, let's drive down costs, let's mitigate risk. All great things. But right now, this is you establish the beachhead and go win new territory with this stuff. I love that framing. Kind of closing out, like you wrote this book. It's great. Is there anything you wish you would have done differently or anything you would add today that you didn't get to?
I think we are getting some feedback, which it also shared from CEOs, that maybe it has become a little bit dense, maybe for the CEO reading. But as you likely said, we didn't want to be fluffy and not go deep. Maybe we are thinking even, okay, how about like kind of a handbook for a CEO, a busy CEO who wants to read it over a flight? That's a challenge as well, so that you have to convey the right messages, yet be not fluffy and have credible examples like Audi examples. So that's a food for thought for us. But I think I am happy and satisfied what has come out right now as a first version. But over to you, Sid.
No, I think more than what we've written, the great thing has been how so many people have contributed to it. We've not called out a bunch of people out here. I mean, for example, Big Data London is you mentioned just now. We've all been there. Mike Ferguson, who co-chaired, he's been a great sounding board for us in the book.
The back is like kind of a who's who list of people, by the way.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So I would say the book has turned out the way it is because of all of the discussions we've had with all of these great people. The only thing I might change is I probably would have been great if I knew you before, Joe, and I would have for sure got some good stuff. Maybe we would have added a few
Next
more
time,
things on data modeling inside all of this, or data engineering. But no, I think we are happy
next
with
edition.
how it's turned out.
No, I think it's good because I think right now it's a very hard time to write a book
Yeah.
because things are changing just at warp speed
Yep.
right now. But I think that what you guys wrote actually, I don't give compliments out for a lot of books, but I think you guys wrote something that I think is going to hopefully stand the test of time as much as
Thank
things
you.
can stand the test of time today. But it's better than the book that, within a week it's already obsolete, which, is very possible right
Yeah.
now.
That means a lot, Joe. I mean, I know how good your book is, so coming from you, that's really makes our day for sure.
Well, I mean, when I've learned a few things. I can't say. I mean, I think our book still stands for the most part, but it
It
was
does.
Bill Inman actually who told me right when we were finishing our book, is that he's like, you need to remove names of technologies as much as possible, because if you keep mentioning stuff, it's going to be very out of date and expired. And I thought that was very good advice. So the more you can just focus on the principles and fundamentals, like you guys did, like I did, and that's how you're going to maintain longevity, and it'll probably spare you the time that you need to rewrite the book again. Because I'm pretty sure your publisher would be like, guys, we just published it. You want to redo it?
Yeah.
My suggestion for those lightweight things, that just make those into articles in like Substack or Medium, like that. Then that's good feeder back to the book.
Exactly. That's a good idea. We are actually thinking on those directions. Maybe start a podcast on the book itself. Data as the fourth pillar podcast.
I think
we will
that'd be
invite you back.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, because I get a lot of messages from executives. They somehow listen to my podcasts and read my Substack. I don't know why, but they do, which is surprising to me because my stuff is more geared towards practitioners and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of executives that consume my stuff, and I think the podcast is a good idea, and same with the newsletter. So anyway, that's my feedback or opinion.
No, thank you. But any feedback? What's your thoughts on anything that has caught your attention primarily that maybe catches your eye? Okay, this is one cool thing that I have seen or heard or read from this book.
I just think that the way you guys have framed the problems, of which there are plenty, is really good. And so I think the flow of the book too is something, I'm only halfway through it, but I think the flow of it was like because I only got it on Friday when I got back, so I'm still reading it, but I think the flow was very well thought out. And so for me, it was just seemed to, like, my test is, do I want to go to the next page or not?
Yeah.
Right. Because I always have that choice where I can choose not to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of books, that's sort of the criteria of, do you want to finish it or not? But I felt like this one, it was just very practical advice. So I think the whole thing was just, and even like you said with the data density thing, like that was something that never occurred to me, or data intensity, more like it, where speed, compliance, and quality, I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was a good. I think you have the triangle image there.
Yeah.
But that was a good framing of it. But just things like that, right? And I'm only on that was this data. What is a data operating model? I think I just started that part.
Exactly.
But yeah, everything's good.
It's only going to get better from here, Joe. I really want to see you read chapter 4, because I think that's where everything comes to.
Have me do your podcast and have me come on as a guest, and I can tell you all about it once I'm done reading it.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, guys,
we'll come back to you.
Yeah, it'd be dope. For people who want to learn more about you, how can they find you guys and your book?
Yeah, I think the book website is datathefourthpillar.com, and then you will find us on LinkedIn. Search myself, Sujay, and Siddharth Rajagopal. So we are there on LinkedIn, and you can look in Big Data London website. And then soon there is a Data 2030 Summit happening in October 1st in Stockholm, and it is live streamed online as well. So I'll be doing the keynote there. Yeah.
Sick.
Probably
Nice.
LinkedIn, yeah, and maybe in future, like you said, Joe, Substack, maybe podcast, etc. But at this point, LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to reach us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, give them a connection request. So I'll have to catch you guys sometime in Europe. Anyways, good chatting with you.
Joe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
time flew by. Thanks a lot, Joe. Thank
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.